Love. We've just witnessed love. Continuing our theme for the Paschal Triduum. Last night we began with the new commandment to love one another as Christ loves us, to make others our own, to invest in them and serve them, even though that leaves us vulnerable to betrayal. While that reality is heartwarming when it's washing feet, it is heartbreaking when it means inviting those we love to crucify us. It's easy for us to see here how Jesus is the good guy and the Judean leaders are the bad guys. But have you really given it an unbiased look? You brood of vipers, whitewashed tombs, blind fools, dogs, pigs, hypocrites, children of Satan. Jesus leveled these and more at the Jewish leaders. He even calls his own apostle Satan. Jesus is not always the nice guy giving the thumbs up. Sometimes he is a fiery, challenging, convicting, almost insulting pain in the neck. And if you really consider things from the perspective of Caiaphas and the other leaders, you may find their behavior surprisingly reasonable. Jesus is Jewish. He teaches that the Jews really are God's chosen people. Their covenants and commandments come from God. And God commanded that blasphemy be punished by death. For all of the prophecies that Jesus fulfills, none of them are quite explicit that God is a trinity of three divine persons in one God. None of them make it quite clear that God will literally become a human being, the Son of God taking on flesh. Looking back with faith, we can see it. But for a Jew in the first century, it was hardly obvious. So when, as we heard this past Sunday, the high priest asks Jesus, "Do you claim to be God?" And Jesus answers him, "Yes." Are we really surprised that he is shocked, appalled at this, that he wants this man executed for the blasphemy, just as Moses has commanded? This is today's lesson about love, real love. It rejoices with the truth. The thing is that we fallen human beings are pretty bad at recognizing truth. Pontius Pilate, what is truth? Depending on our biology, upbringing, education, and current situation, there are some truths that are literally impossible for us to understand in the moment we meet them. Like trying to show a colorblind man the difference between red and green, forcing the issue only creates strife. But there is a difference between red and green, and even if it's frustrating for someone who can't see it, that difference can be the difference between life and death at a traffic light. Unlike color, truths about God, Jesus, morality, human nature, and love are immensely complex, rich topics. Two perfectly reasonable people can, with all sincerity, find themselves on opposite sides on any of them. Only one can be right. Odds are that both are partly right, partly wrong. Being forced to engage with a truth you cannot see, that someone else can, is maddening. And left to ourselves, we won't. The Judean leaders could not see the truth about Jesus. But Jesus loved them. Because he loved them, he spoke truth. And the more he did, the more frustrated they became until they killed him. Jesus pushed them to the point of homicidal anger because he loved them. He also knew that only by dying over this would they come to see the truth. Do you get that? That they would never have seen the truth unless someone was willing to die to show it to them, to push them to the point of homicidal rejection so that they can learn. This is tough love. It is the love of Jesus on the cross who thirsts for the salvation of the very people murdering him. It is the love of the martyrs. It is why sometimes the Pope, bishop, priest, or lay Catholic you hate actually loves you much more than the one you like. It is why Catholics need to accept that we are supposed to be hated. But the point of this homily is not to tell you to insult and attack people with the truth. No, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Caiaphas and Pontius Pilate. I want you to look back at every argument, insult, or infuriating interaction you've had with someone because what they believe just can't be true. Maybe you were right. But I want you to honestly entertain the possibility that you weren't and they were. Seriously allow yourself the mental and emotional space to consider their claims, to think through the implications, and to put them in the context of the things that you know they are right about. If they were right, what scares you about it? Would it invalidate your life's work? Would it mean that you've been doing something terrible all along? Would it make you look and feel foolish? Would it just be too dang hard to change now? Because Caiaphas and the Judean leaders felt those things. Some were smart and even good people. But they could not see the truth, and it drove them mad. They killed Jesus over it. Are you so sure of yourself that you'd risk crucifying Jesus too? Sometimes love is investing in and serving those around us, washing their feet. Sometimes love is holding on to the truth even though it means we'll be hated for it. For us fallible human beings, however, that love must begin with this question: do I love the truth enough to recognize it in the people I hate? Or will I kill the uncomfortable truth and bury it, hoping that it will finally leave me alone?